I'm Brandon Smith, and I'm the Workplace Therapist. My entire purpose and passion in life is one singular thing, and that's to help you live a life free from dysfunction. And let's be honest, folks, dysfunction is everywhere. Our bosses, our coworkers, our neighbors, even that grumpy barista that pours your coffee. And sometimes, that dysfunction stares back at us in the face when we're getting ready in the mornings and we see ourselves in the mirror. Well, at the end of the day, life and work should not have to suck. The purpose of this show is to help you overcome those roadblocks in your life to help you realize the life you've always wanted. And so this week is our rotating leadership therapy week. So as we've shared with you before, every other week we do leadership therapy. We take on a topic that I cover to help you live a life a little bit more free from dysfunction, and then we take on a question from you all. And on off weeks, we have an awesome guest that comes in here and helps us look through the lenses of them and help to make life a little bit better. So today's topic, we are going to talk about trust. Trust. What is more important to us than trust? In fact, whether we're as leaders or we're trying to influence other people, we always hear that the fundamental to all those things are trust. And to help me stay on track and guide me and keep me out of trouble is one of my awesome producers, Whitney Mendoza. Whitney, thank you.
To stay on track.
To stay on track. Yeah, I need help staying on track.
Totally not going to happen.
I'm not staying on track? No, you're saying I'm too out of control?
It. I have chips.
You may
I
derail
chips
it.
Today.
I notice you have the chips.
Yeah,
I haven't heard any crunching yet.
Snack.
Yeah, always.
I'm being authentic with you right now.
You are being authentic. And so over the years of dealing with this topic, I've essentially created a quick back-of-the-envelope formula to help us understand trust maybe a little bit better, a little bit clearer.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to share the formula with you, okay? You ready?
Ready.
Okay, now to do it, you have to put on your high school math hat. Of course, now the way that kids are being taught today, this may be like your elementary school math hat. I don't know what math hat it is, but it's a multiplication formula, right? So trust is...
Oh, maybe I need my phone for that.
It's and there's a reason why it's the way it is.
Okay.
So follow me, okay? So trust is, in parentheses, remember you have parentheses. You put things in parentheses, you're going to multiply it or add it. So inside parentheses, you've got authenticity plus vulnerability. Okay, in parentheses. Multiplied times credibility. That gets us trust. Right, so we've got credibility is one piece of this, and then it's going to be multiplied times, and then in parentheses, some level of authenticity plus vulnerability. So let's say we've got all the authenticity and vulnerability in the world. We've got a coworker or a friend who's got all that. So we love her or him. They're just great. They're authentic. They're transparent. They're real. Those are other proxies for those things. Transparent, real. And we love hanging out with them. But there's no credibility. Mm-hmm. Well, we wouldn't want to work with them or for them because we'd say, yeah, I mean, they're great people, but I wouldn't want to rely on them. If we flip the other side, let's say the person's got the greatest resume in the world, all the credibility, but there's no authenticity, no vulnerability. So they're almost like these plasticky corporate politicians that smile and we think, yeah, they're holding back. That's not really what they think. Mm-hmm. You know, we wouldn't want to leave our kind of wallet or purse hanging around. It's like, I'm not really sure what their intentions are, their motives. So it's really important that we have both sides of that.
We apologize, maybe acknowledge that we did something wrong and we're authentic about it. Then can we build back up trust?
If people are willing to give us a chance.
Okay.
But the only way you build back credibility is by, over time, showing that you can do the work. And that's another important piece that's not embedded in the formula but underpins it. And it is a product of time. You can't always have credibility right out the gate. So let me give you a kind of a real life example.
Okay.
I had a student I was coaching recently, and the student had shared with me this great example and the story that really tied into this formula. And the student had done an internship over the summer and had not gotten an offer after the internship. And the student shared with me, and they said, you know, I'm a really authentic, real person. Like, I'm just real with everybody. And all my fellow interns that I worked with over the summer, they all loved me. They just thought I was great because I'm me. I'm me. Everyone kind of knows what's going on in my head. I'm an open book. But then the student said, but I could never get my manager to really connect with me. And I don't know why. I said, well, gosh, okay, well, tell me about those interactions. What did you talk about when you sat down with your manager? You just played authenticity, vulnerability every time. So it's an important reminder for us, or in addition to this, that you move with different parts with different relationships. So if you have a new manager, you need to start with credibility and
Okay.
really build that up, and then work in authenticity, vulnerability. And it makes sense because a new manager is going to say, well, I want to see that Whitney can do the work. And then over time, they'll say, okay, now I trust Whitney from a credibility standpoint, and then learning a little bit more about how you think is where you really accelerate that.
Okay.
Now, on the flip side, if you're a new manager and you already have credibility, then the way you build trust quickly is you lead with authenticity, vulnerability. So your employees aren't freaked out. So let's say you get a whole new team, Whitney, and if new people report to you and they're a little bit intimidated, well, you share a little bit more about who you are and some of your concerns, or you don't always have all the right answers, and that disarms them, and then they feel more comfortable.
So around that, and let me know if this ties in, something that you think we need to do differently or something we're doing wrong, then you can speak up. Which kind of plays into that, right? Like, of course, we want to see that you can do the job, but you can't just come in and immediately tell us what you think we're doing wrong. So what is a good time frame for that? How long does it take if we're a new employee coming in to build credibility? Does it take 6 months? Does it take longer? Can we do it faster?
Credibility you can build right out of the gate.
Okay.
So credibility is all about delivering on expectations.
Okay.
And that's a great way to build trust. And I always encourage anyone taking a new job, whether they graduate from school and they're going into a new job or they're changing roles, the first thing you should do is set up a coffee meeting with your manager and ask her or him a series of questions just to clarify expectations. So, what would success look like for me? What would success look like for this project? What would you not want to see happen? What are your greatest concerns overall? What keeps you up at night? Some of those classic questions. Those are great because then you learn really quickly what their expectations are, and then you can execute on those quickly, and then you build credibility super fast. And then over time, you can work in authenticity, vulnerability. And in the QVC example you gave, it's just a lot about sharing your opinion, sharing your perspective. You can work that in over time, and they're going to be ready for it when they know you understand them and you do what they need you to do. So, yeah, absolutely. It doesn't take that long.
So on the flip side, if we have trust and all these pieces, so we have authenticity, vulnerability, credibility, what if we break a piece of that and it goes to zero and we lose trust? How can we build it back, and how long does that take?
Okay, so let's say, we've had some major misstep and lost credibility, or we've, people don't feel like we're really being authentic or real or transparent. They think we're lying or whatever happened. A lot of that's a product of how long we had trust with them before, because you're essentially asking them to give you a second chance. And so how much are they invested in that relationship? And if you've been working with them for a long time and it's always been a good relationship, they've always trusted you, and I'm asking this client to change their behavior because they've got a bad reputation inside the company. They're doing good work, but their reputation is that they don't play well with others. Well, that's essentially getting people to trust them again and changing people's perception of that person. And in those cases, it can take up to 2 years to get someone's brand, quote unquote, to change inside a company.
Okay.
Where people see them differently and start trusting them again.
Okay.
So it can take as long as 2 years.
Yeah, and I see that. One of the hurdles to that, I would think, is, when you're trying to change maybe the way you're treating others or the way you're acting in the workplace. I would see a speed bump as, well, I'm changing the way I'm acting, but maybe you're wondering why I'm acting that way. So why all of a sudden now is Whitney being nice to me? Why is she speaking this way instead of, being positive instead of negative? Is there a way that we can, build that up?
Totally ties into the authenticity, vulnerability, to share with them, hey, look, I got some feedback that I haven't been operating as well as I could have. And so I'm really going to work on these things. So you're going to notice some things different. Comment a little bit about vulnerability. Often when people hear vulnerability, they think of vulnerable emotions, like crying or getting upset. And it doesn't have to be that. Vulnerability is just saying, I don't have all the answers. Vulnerability can say, this is a half-baked idea, or I need your help. Those are all forms of vulnerability. And we all have to learn those in life. If you don't learn how to do that, you can never have really strong relationships with others. And you can never really have a level of intimacy. And in the workplace, what we're talking about here is professional intimacy. That helps us get to trust. But it's not an easy thing to see or to do. if you want to learn more about vulnerability, you should check out Brene Brown's TED Talk, because that's a fantastic example of what is vulnerability, and she's an excellent researcher on that topic, so it's a good one to learn more on.
So in that, let's unpack authenticity a little bit. Can we be too authentic?
I would love to unpack authenticity, and we're going to talk about how we can be a little more authentic and how we can build that to trust, and then I'm going to hear from you, and we're going to take on one of your questions. I have no idea what Whitney's got in store for me, so we'll find out all that after the break. Stay tuned.
The right job plus the right culture plus the right boss equals workplace happiness. The number one reason people leave jobs is problems with their boss. A horrible boss can make us dread every Monday, but an amazing boss can make us so excited to work that we'd go in on weekends. Finding your perfect boss is not only possible, it's one of the most impactful steps you can take in crafting your perfect career. Visit theworkplacetherapist.com and click on guides to learn how to find and get your perfect boss, whether that means making the decision to move on or turning your current boss into the perfect leader you want them to be. Our bosses have so much influence over our work and our whole day. Working for the right boss alone can be a winning career strategy.
Back to the Brandon Smith Show. I am your host, Brandon Smith, and during the break, Whitney, are you eating chips again? Still? No, you're not eating chips again?
No.
So when we went to the break, Whitney was eating chips. She's still eating chips. And
Really good.
we were talking about...
They're baked.
They're baked?
Yes.
Those are good for you.
They are.
You know, this
Makes me feel
ties in
better.
exactly to what we were just talking about before the break. Because we were talking about authenticity and vulnerability. And you asked me a question.
Don't take them away. We're trying to build up trust.
We
And
are.
I was
We're trying to build up
show
trust.
That I trust you to allow me to have these chips on the show.
Yeah.
All right, well. Okay, so so what you're saying, so I get this. You can, in fact,
Be too authentic.
be too authentic.
You can be.
Wow.
You can be. So
Okay.
I'll give you a great example. When was the last time you flew on a flight, commercial flight, anywhere?
It's been a couple of years.
Okay. Did everyone on that flight dress in a very kind of appropriate way,
Oh,
being
no.
considerate of all the other passengers?
Oh, no. It's the airport.
Yeah. But all that has changed. So there's, and this even ties into emotional intelligence, but all that's changed in recent years where people are like, no, I can just be me. I can wear whatever I want to. If I want to wear just underwear and get on a plane, I can do that. And you shouldn't tell me that I can't do that. That's an example of too much authenticity. Or that we're trying to do a podcast here, and chips are very distracting.
Got hungry.
As delicious as they might be.
They are.
I'm just saying.
65% less fat.
Excellent.
Makes me feel better for my healthy snack.
That's good. Excellent. Way to go. Very authentic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm glad to be a
So-
living, breathing example.
So, do we anything else on the trust that we need to take on before we pivot over to our question?
I think just to remind viewers and listeners of the formula. So it's the authenticity plus vulnerability.
Yep, and you can't see Whitney
Yeah.
because
Oh,
she's
yes.
doing like big motions, but she's saying authenticity plus vulnerability in parentheses. So remember, we're doing a math equation here. Multiply times, so the product of that stuff, or the
Yes.
the addition of that stuff in that parentheses, multiplied times credibility gets us to trust. And if we're going into a situation with a new boss, or new coworkers, new colleagues, just start with credibility. Because everyone's got an inspiring story. Everyone's got hardships they've had to go through in life. And when you can learn how to unlock that and share that, it really enhances trust. And I'll share my story with executive education audiences, and then we'll go back to the trust formula, and they'll say, oh yeah, it was vulnerability and authenticity. And then some people will say, yeah, but it was credibility too. So our stories are great ways as leaders that you can kind of move the trust needle when you've already got a foundation in all those.
It's good.
Yeah, but just like anything, your story is powerful, but you don't want to do it, too fast, too soon, too much, too soon. You wait till you've already got some of those established. You use it to go to the next level. But really powerful for leaders.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Kind of like Pam Brown said, it's dating. It's kinda
Like Pam
yeah.
Brown said on one of our earlier shows, it's
Yeah.
like dating, and you got to build that established kind of relationship, and then this takes it to the next level. And I've seen leaders do this and just really inspire their entire organization and get them ready to take on something scary, take on a change because of that powerful story. So it's another way of taking this trust formula and applying it. Yeah, totally.
Very good.
Hit me with the question.
All right, we have a question from in a small, closely held corporation. Recently, and this writer's female, so she's saying recently a male and a female have begun to call me things like darling, love, sweetheart, and baby. So she tried to correct them, and she said, please call me by my first name. They seemed a little shocked at this. She's kind of heard others about, calling her these same things. She's trying to correct them. Everyone's kind of like, why are you correcting me? This is how we talk here. So she wants to know, how can she speak to them in a way that's respectful, but let them know you can't call me that? How does she kind of work that? Because she feels that that's kind of diminishing her respect in the workplace. So what can she do?
Yeah, this is a tricky one. So we have a couple things mixing in here. So there's regional impact. So different parts of the country, people may use terminology like baby or sweetheart, and it's in those regions. You've also got generational differences. And the other piece you have in there is she said the company was a small, privately held, closely held
corporation.
Corporation. So I'm going to read between the lines and say closely held means it's so small means less than 50 people, and closely held means probably there's owners. So it could be privately held. It could even be a family business. And that also makes the dynamic a little more familial, a little more casual. So I love family-owned businesses. In the world of cultures, the very greatest places to work are typically privately held businesses. They have some of the very best cultures in the entire world. On the other end of the spectrum, some of the very worst cultures in the entire world are family-owned businesses. Because those cultures, those businesses, always take on and embody the family and the persona of the family and the dynamics of the family, and then it just magnifies it. So if the family's really messed up, the cultures can be really messed up. If the family's really healthy, then the cultures can be really healthy. So I think what you're getting here is a very familial, regional kind of business, and a certain set of kind of standards and decorum. So I think she can try and change that. The only thing that's really going to drive that change is if she can make the business case for why her request is better for the business. So if all their customers are within that region and all their customers say baby and sweetheart and honey, well, she's really not in the right place.
Right.
Because the culture and the business is operating the way that their customers do. It's mapping to their customers. But if their customers are not wanting that and they're expecting a different kind of interaction, then she's more likely to be able to make her case. So I think it all has to do with the customers. And then it also has to do with her comfort, because at the end of the day, one person trying to make culture change is a really, really hard thing to do.
Right.
It's not impossible, but it sure is darn close. It's really, really close. So I would say try and make the argument in a nice way, and try not to offend them, because they don't know, they may not know they're being offended.
I tried to correct this on my own, but it really is a pain point for me.
Yeah, I would say meet with the people who are saying it to you and say, I'm not, by no means am I trying to offend you. In fact, this is a very difficult conversation to have, because I really respect you and I respect the work we do. But for whatever reason, I'm just not used to these kinds of nicknames. They just, it's not something I grew up with, and I kind of cringe every time I hear them. And so while this may be a tough ask, it would mean a lot to me if you just call me by my first name. So you're giving them the benefit of the doubt. But if you come in there hard and say you're acting unprofessional, then all of a sudden, you're setting up a dynamic of, you're bad and not good, and I'm good, and it's not going to play well. So you have to almost go in there and lead a little bit. Going back to our trust formula, lead a little bit with vulnerability and see if that kind of softens them and helps them make that shift. And you find something that's going to map to my expectations and values a little bit more. Clearly, she's got a certain level of professionalism, decorum, and buttoned-upness that is not being exhibited in this particular work environment.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
Thank you, Brandon. I think we've helped another listener.
that's the goal.
And I
Hope so.
put aside the chips so
I
that
noticed that.
they could hear you.
Yeah.
And not
But I
me.
can see you keep eyeing those chips.
I do. It's about lunchtime.
It's about lunchtime. Okay, so
It's almost
I think
10.
we're almost up for our time today. And so as I shared with you, Whitney, because I'm being very authentic and vulnerable, this, folks, is where I tend to screw everything up. Go south in the
Have
closing.
an awesome weekday life.
I've messed this up more than
Forever.
once. So let's see if Brandon can end the show right this time. So thank you all for listening and joining us in our fight against dysfunction. I think hopefully we've moved the needle a little bit today on not only trust and how to build trust better, but even when we're dealing with some of those sticky situations inside the workplace. And stay with the fight every Tuesday at 9 a.m. I'm Brandon Smith, and I'm the Workplace Therapist. My entire purpose and passion in life is one singular thing, and that's to help you live a life free from dysfunction. And let's be honest, folks, dysfunction is everywhere. Our bosses, our coworkers, our neighbors, even that grumpy barista that pours your coffee. And sometimes, that dysfunction stares back at us in the face when we're getting ready in the mornings and we see ourselves in the mirror. Well, at the end of the day, life and work should not have to suck. The purpose of this show is to help you overcome those roadblocks in your life, to help you realize the life you've always wanted.